It's a beautiful Tuesday afternoon, and you're welcome to Health Check on VOP TV. I am Fina Chiku, and on Health Check, we discuss all medical related issues with the help of experts. We don't talk it alone because we want actually for you to benefit more from it. So we have experts, that help us to treat any issue, and they also possibly profess solutions. Okay, and on the show today, I have Dr. Paul Koshamiju. Dr. Paul Koshamiju is a seasoned medical doctor of over 13 years in general medicine and family medicine. He is also a health, safety, and environmental manager with a NEBOSH qualifications. Dr. Paul is also a health and wellness coach, a telemedicine doctor, and also he's an entrepreneur. But before we, get into the discussion of today, we want to encourage you to go to our social media handles. Click on the bell button, the subscription button on YouTube. We are Voice of the People TV. And on other social media platforms, we are VOP TV Live. And today, we'll be looking at fungal infection. While I actually took my time to call out the social media handles, actually it's for you to be able to participate fully during the course of the program. I'll be expecting your questions, your contributions, in case you have something else to add or to say, as regards the topic of the day. You just know that it will be highly welcome. Okay, talking about the topic of the day, we'll be looking at fungal infection. Yes, and what we want to ask, what is fungal infection? Okay, let me tell you. Fungal infection is any disease that is caused by fungus. Yes, now I know the time actually is too big, and that's why we have Dr. Paul Koshamiju in the studio to help dissect it. Dr. Paul, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's nice having you again. It's been a long time.
Yes, it has been.
Hope you're good.
I'm fine.
Yeah, from your smile, actually. The way you're smiling, I know he's good. And okay. How's the heat wave?
Well, the heat wave...
Are you experiencing what we're experiencing too?
And the heat wave is comes and goes, I rained a couple of days ago, so it's cooling down a little bit.
Oh, it comes and it goes. That is not stable. But all the same, I'm happy. Now I have a medical practitioner with me in the studio. And today, Doctor will be looking at fungal infection. I actually told them that fungal infection means any disease that is caused by fungus. And some people will be like, what is fungus again? Why if I carry this one come again? What is happening? Yeah, because some people speak English. And we are Voice of the People, we represent the people. So I would like you to, explain it the way they will understand. Don't blow big grammar out, small. So that my people will understand, what this infection is all about.
All right. Thank you very much, Fina. Fungal infections, well, in medical terms, though I'm going to break that down. In medical terms, we call it mycosis, or mycosis, whatever part of the world you want to stay in and call it. Now, fungal infections, as Fina correctly said, are infections that are caused by fungus. And the fungus, majorly 2-3 types of fungus we see. You see them as yeast, or you see them as mold. Now, fungus infections are these fungal infections. A fungus is a singular living thing, because the fungus are living things separate from animals and humans, and animals and plants. They are also living things, and they basically they reproduce by either they spread out or they send their pores into the atmosphere, and when you breathe in those pores, they basically now start affecting you. So they're also living things, and they basically affect us. Some live with us human beings within our body system. There's a symbiotic relationship with some, but when they overgrow, then it becomes harmful to the human body. So, and then when you basically also inhale some of these pores that are there in the atmosphere, it can also cause problems also in the human body. So, fungal, those are just, as you rightly said, fungal infection is an infection of the human body by a fungus, or fungi when it becomes plural, when it's more than one.
All right. Okay, now when you're explaining the fungal infection, you made mention of the yeast and the molds. Can you explain so that, some people will be like, what is yeast again? Is it the one we put in food to eat for those who are having eye problem? Because, it can actually stick it out.
Okay, so if I want to break that down, I'll have to use like an example.
All right.
Because if I'm going to start talking about the yeast, and then there's no way I won't go into medical jargons that. But if you do leave a plate of soup outside and just leave it out there, and when you basically come maybe after 2-3 days, you tend to see this whitish thing that has grown on top of it. That's a mold. Or you see so they basically tend to grow in, because of they tend to grow in areas where there is air, so the aerobics and then all that, and then they tend to grow on more things that are basically decaying and spoiling. So you see now, if you've ever seen algae are these greenish kind of plants. You ever seen them? You see more of yeast. Now it's not. I know basically when women cook and then you talk about the yeast, you basically
now you understand.
Now, it's not that yeast I'm talking about, but then the yeast it forms from it's a little bit close to it, but then this is a type of bacteria. It's a type of living thing that occurs. It basically forms, as I said, when you have with food that basically you leave out, and basically after it starts decaying, you start seeing mold growing on top of it, or you start seeing some yeast material. When we talk in yeast form, yeast have to do with because they tell you when you have things that, let's say you have let's say for example zobo drink, and you basically keep it out there for a while and then it ferments and different things. It's the yeast that is produced that makes it give that fermenting taste and all that. So there's the terms of fungi and different things that in the atmosphere, and they basically help when things begin to spoil, they begin to grow. It basically is what helps their own reproduction.
All right, now another thing I want to ask is, you've actually known or looked at fungus as a singular being the cause of fungal infection. Now, another question is this: causes of this, fungal infection. Because you just told us that we have it, is there in the system, some actually symbiotic and all that. Now, what are the things that causes this fungal infection for them to start reacting?
Okay. As I said, fungal infection can be. I told you that fungus are living things.
Yeah.
Now, this fungus, some of it are found in a symbiotic relationship with the human being. Basically, we have what we call in when we talk in the medical terms, we talk of fauna and flora. Flora tends to be like kind of plant-like kind of things that would basically live in symbiotic relationship with the human being. Now, these things are such in that as they stay in the human body, they tend to help break down certain food components, help in breaking down food components. But when these things outgrow where they should be, or in terms of the quantity they should be in the human body, then it becomes a problem. Now, for example, and these fungi can be found, most places they mostly occur would be in the skin and mostly underneath the nails. Those are most times where we'd mostly find, and where fungal infections mostly grow are found in the body. But doesn't mean those are the only places where they can be. They could be found in the mouth, could be found in the throat, could be found in the private parts, could be found. Basically, you see when women talk about UTIs, urinary tract infections, women are having candidiasis. Candidiasis is a type of fungal infection that occurs in human beings. Now, so those are different things like that. So the cause of these things are overgrowth of fungus. Possibly the human being inhales this fungus via its pores in the atmosphere or in the environment, or it could be the overgrowth of these same fungi that inhabits with us symbiotically, and now it's overgrown or outgrown what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to be within a certain functions and then range, and then it goes.
Okay. Now, when we were talking about how or what causes this, you made mention of it being on the skin, even in between the nails. And now, tell us the symptoms. How can I know I'm having fungal infection?
Okay. Now, coming to because when we talk about the fungal infection, majorly mostly in the skin, but we have what we call the superficial. That's the one that is found mostly on top of the skin. We have what we call the subcutaneous, is found underneath the skin. And then we have what we call the deep fungal infections. Now, starting with the superficial ones, what you'll find that they basically like to stay in areas that trap moisture on the skin. So what you're talking about in between, look at the hand now, in between the digits of the hand. These are like little crevices that tend to trap moisture. So these kind of places are good areas in which fungi like to thrive in.
Oh.
Now, you could also have them in certain curvature areas, sometimes the elbow joint. So in different areas that like to trap moisture, you find a lot of, you could get a lot of fungal infections. And when you talk about the human body also, you talk about in the private part. So areas where you have a lot of moisture, that are covered areas. Now, I talked about the superficial. And you could have it, you could see it sometimes as a rash.
Oh, okay.
You could see it as a rash, or you could see it as, if you basically look at, sometimes it might be bumpy. It might be a little like bump, this thing, or it could be, have a little form like an, not an ulcer kind of form, but it has this, it's itchy. It's really, really itchy. If it's within on the skin, yeah, you find that it itches a lot, especially in these areas that trap moisture. Now, if it's underneath the skin, you could also see that it's reddish, it's swollen, and sometimes it also still has this rash kind of look right there underneath the skin as the subcutaneous one. But then when you now look at it inside in the deep part, now, as I said, also it could also be in the mouth.
Oh, okay.
Now, so when it is found in the mouth, we'll have what we call the oral thrush, and it has these whitish particles. You will see it in the mouth has a whitish particle. So you can see it in the skin, reddish, it's swollen. Underneath the skin, it could look bumpy. And then if you look into the mouth, you can see it has whitish particles. Sometimes in different organs, you can see it has some whitish particles there. So these are the different things. And to be able to see and understand how these things are done is that you can do tests to be able to do it. So basically,
I was
skin,
actually getting to that.
Oh, okay.
Awesome, go ahead.
So I'm beating you to it. So in doing the test, possibly if it is under the fingernails, you take nail clippings, you clip the nails and then run sample test on it. On the skin, they will take maybe little swabs of where you're having the rash and different things, or little crevices like this in the skin where possibly it's itchy and all that. They will basically take swabs of that, and then someone who maybe is itching it, they will take some clippings from underneath the fingernails. Now, but if it is like it's somewhere in the mouth where it possibly has the whitish particles or the whitish patches, we will use like a swab stick and then basically take samples from there. Just rub the swab stick over the white patch and then go and culture it.
Yeah.
But for places like someone having it in other deep organs like the urinary tract, in the females especially, in the males, you would basically take a urine sample. We tend to take a urine sample and then culture it. Possibly if it's a fecal, the person is stooling, we basically take a fecal sample, that's a stool sample, and then culture those things.
All right, a still health check on VOP TV, and we've been talking with Dr. Paul Kushamiju, whom I told us is a seasoned medical practitioner with over 14 years, in family medicine and also in general medicine. And we've been talking fungal infection today. Don't go anywhere after this quick break. We'll continue. We'll have to look at, if it has a possible cure. I'm talking about now the fungal infection. We'll look at the preventive measures we need to put. We'll look at people who are at risk of getting a fungal infection, and so on and so forth. So don't go anywhere. And I believe you have your questions to ask, you have your contributions to drop. Just go ahead, send them across on our social media platforms. At YouTube, we are at Voice of the People TV. And other social media platforms, we have VOP TV Live. After this quick break, we'll continue. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Voice of the People Health Check. Okay, and before that quick break, I told us that we have Dr. Paul Kushamiju, who is a seasoned medical practitioner in the studio with us this afternoon, and he's helping us look deep into fungal infection. I know you've learned a lot, but if you're just joining us, just know that you've done some things that, you've actually lost some knowledge, but believe me, you can get that back when you just sit there and pay keen attention to all we're saying. Okay, Dr. Paul, before that break, we're looking at ways where that fungal infection can be diagnosed. You've made mention of cutting the nail clips and even going for swabs and all that. And you also talked about going for urinary test to know if it is there in the system. Okay, now, another question we want to ask is this. The risk factor of having this fungal infection and not knowing that it is there and not treating it the right time.
Okay. The risk factors majorly with people who have a weakened immune system.
Okay.
Once your immunity is low, and your immunity is, how do you know your immunity is low? Um, there's so many symptoms we could have to know that immunity is low. Sneezing, you're having cough, you're having catarrh, you're having headaches, you're having. It just shows that because once your immunity is low, if your immunity is good, you won't have all these little symptoms. So for your immunity to be low, you definitely have these symptoms. Now, having a low immunity does not mean you have a fungal infection.
Oh, all right.
It means that you are predisposed to having a fungal infection if you get in contact with the fungal spores.
Oh, okay.
So it's always best and important that our immunity is always not low. So meaning that we should always have a very, very strong immunity. If you basically do see that once you're having catarrh, you're having cough, you're having headaches, you're having fever, you're not feeling good in your body, it's always important, see a doctor or get to a hospital where you can be treated and get your immunity back on track. Because if you have your immunity strong, then even if you come in contact with a fungal spore or anything, because the fungal things are in our environment, it's just like anything, they're living things. So you might basically touch a table now that possibly had a little bit of a mold and you did not know.
Oh.
And then you picked it up. But then if your immunity isn't low, it's easily going to get into you and then you have that problem.
So you mean as I touch the table, it's not here anyway, but as I touch the table.
Yeah, because it's a living thing, and then with that touch now, you basically most likely would use your hand to eat. You use your hand to do different things. Your hand goes into your mouth, and that is just what it needs to get into your system.
Oh.
So that's why they talk about to prevent it really. Hand washing.
We've not got into the preventive measures
Okay.
or the possible cure. Okay. Now I have another question I want to ask you. Now the thing is, you made mention of parts of the body where we can get this fungal infection and all that. Now, one wants to ask, what part of the body actually has highest percentage of, getting this fungal infection?
The part of the body that has the highest percentage of getting this infection is mostly the skin and the nails.
Oh, all right.
When it comes to the skin, I talked about the skin and I said you get it's reddish, it's swollen, then you have it's itchy and all that. But underneath the nails, what you also find with the nails is that sometimes the nails now look like they're brittled, they look cracked. Sometimes you see this yellowish discoloration of the nails. So basically, those are the more common parts, which I said that they're still, with a few people, you still could get them in the mouth, just that oral thrush. And then with people, you could also have it, I said, in the urinary tract and different other things. Now, one other thing I wanted to talk about with the risk factor is this. Also, immunocompromised people are also a very high risk for it.
You're blowing grammar.
Okay, all
Immunocompromised.
right. When I talk
Let
about
us break it down.
okay, when I talk about
Yes.
immunocompromised people, I'm talking about those that their immunity is compromised. And
All right.
when am I talking about people that have HIV, AIDS, or have one major terminal illness or the other?
Oh, okay.
So that's what I talk about. So those people are people that tend to, their immunity is already very, very low. So if they do come in contact with anything that has these fungal spores, they're surely going to get a fungal infection.
Oh, okay.
So those are very, very high risk patients that whenever they're being treated, they want to make sure that they treat them so well so that they don't get these kind of infections, which they can easily get if they do come in contact with them.
Oh, now you've actually told us that the skin stands the chance of having the highest percentage, possibility of getting fungal infection.
Yeah.
Okay, how long does this stay on any part of the body that it gets affected? For how long?
It varies though, and the varying factor is due to your immunity.
Oh, back to immunity again.
Yes. Because that's what I said about the immunity is very, very important because when you have a strong immunity, your body fights.
Oh, okay.
So if your immunity is low or reduced or compromised, as you didn't want to hear, but compromised, it's now you stand a chance to easily get it within a short period and within days, or even within minutes. But if your immunity is strong enough, yes, your body can put it, because our human body is created such that we do have what we call the soldiers of the body, the white cells, who tend to try to fight infections. from getting into our system. So your body can try to put up a defense. So it mostly depends on the immunity.
So someone who actually have a strong immune system, the person can just have this, and within a week or thereabout is gone. And
it might not even manifest as any symptom. Your body will basically put it under check, fight it, and then take it out of the system.
Nice one. So if you have a strong immune system, just know that your body soldier, like the way Dr. Paul said, will help fight this fungal infection. It might not even manifest. But if your immune system is compromised, I borrow that word, immunocompromised people, now just know that you have to be extra careful to avoid having fungal infection. He just told her that it's everywhere. It's a living thing. You can touch a dirty place and boom, you have it. And if you don't really take proper care of yourself, then it might get into your system, and from that way to start manifesting. But anyway,
just to quote in here. Now, people who are also high risk, people that have to do it, tend to do it, also work with food particles, restaurants, and different things. Tend to basically work with food. Sometimes food gets stale. Sometimes you have, and then those are also very high risk of people in which they can pass these things across. Because you go to a restaurant to eat it, the food is not prepared well, it gets bad, they serve it to you, started growing mold somewhere, and then the person just puts it in, warms it up, doesn't throw it away, or possibly you can easily pass that in, and then you just give it to someone, and then the person starts manifesting with symptoms, is having loose stool, is having this and that. So these are also people that need to also be well checked. They're people that work in restaurants need to have this kind of test to make sure that they don't have these illnesses, and it should be done regularly just to make sure that this is curtailed. Okay,
we have gotten to the parts where you wanted to enter before, and I said, no, nobody's going to that sport till a particular time. Now, you've made mention of what happened to be the causes, the risk factors, the symptoms, even the way it can be diagnosed. I'm talking about the fungal infection now, and we have to get to this level. Does fungal infection have a cure? When you're having malaria, they'll tell you go for anti-malaria drugs and all that, take out the plasmodium disease and you're good and all that. So now, does this fungal infection, does it have a cure?
Yes, fungal infection can be treated. There certain medications we'll give for fungal infections. The main thing is, for example, you come into the hospital and then diagnostic tests are done for you, and then we're able to say, oh, there's a fungal infection. The doctor will place you there antifungal medications, and these medications will for example, someone has, anyone who has this like a fungal infection of the toe or the nails, so sometimes the doctor can put you on medications for as high as from possibly between 2 to 6 months. All this is such because there is a high tendency that it can reoccur. So he needs to put you on the medication for a long period of time to make sure to reduce that prevalence of that fungal infection reoccurring. So if you have it interposed like candida, they can put you on medications for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks, for a month. But so there are medications, there are creams, there's antifungal creams, there's lozenges, things you can lick, antifungal also. There are ointments, there's IV, there's different things you can use, so it can be treated.
You're calling so many names, there's lozenges, there's this. But now we know that looking at the economy, they smile at all. It'd be like, go grande, but as matter take be. Yes, now matter no soft at all, it never land well. Now, and because of that, you have to toe the line and say prevention now is better
than cure.
No, I hope you understand that. So now, what actually will be the preventive measures? What are you advising people now to do to make sure that they don't go get this fungal infection?
A lot of things with a lot of infections. I basically always preach prevention in the sense of community hygiene. We always talk that hygiene thing because
I understand.
The hygiene is very, very, very important, and it comes to in everything we do. For example, if I'm going somewhere and I basically have contact with something like this, a table, and when I finish, I wash my hands, dry it, or basically I go to the restroom, use the restroom, I wash my hands, clean my hands well, or before I eat, I make sure I wash my hands, not just dip my hands right into it and then start eating because I'm very hungry, or I buy something and then, no. But we need to be very, very conscious because we know our hands touch so many things. It's touched the laptop, it's touched our phone, it's touched this, it's touched that. We've dropped our phones on the table. We might not touch the table itself, but our phones have been on the table. We pick our phones, We've basically gone to places, we've taught things, we've greeted people, we shook people. The person maybe came out of the restroom, you're not sure. You shook him, and then so many things we have. You go somewhere, when you come back, go have a shower, clean yourself up, wash your hands after you use it. Make sure just hygiene, personal hygiene, general hygiene, environmental, everything. Make sure we clean ourselves, make sure we have the best hygiene possible.
All right, that is it on the show today. You've heard from Dr. Paul Koshemiju. He talked about fungal, and he also went ahead to give us the preventive measures on how we can actually curb it to avoid a dying on. You know, say rice now for Nigeria, but I say the price on the increase. Imagine when you use the money, go they buy drugs. You see the names of the drugs. We have lozenges, we have skin things, we have a personal job telephone and go to resin skincare product this time around. I hope you understand that. Anyway, thank you so much, Doctor, for coming on today's show. Thank you, really appreciate. And I'm happy I also, get something from the fountain of his knowledge. What about you, watching me from your comfort? I know you've learned something today. Anyway, I have learned a lot. But all I want to tell us is this. May no come be like say we come here on speak grammar. Cleanliness, they say, is next to godliness. So what doctor says in general, they say, please try as much as you can actually to, in quotes, learn how to be clean. Wash your hand every time, not just for kids. Have you washed your hand? These adults, please wash your hand. Men too, wash your hands. Yes, it's not the fact that you guys can easily use any conveniency to free yourself from in case you want to urinate and all that. And then you go ahead and be shaking. Guy, how far now? How far? When you waiting to happen? And then that is actually how some of this is actually spread. Okay, and with that, I'm not going to run past my doctorate day. Be like Saturday talk. Be like I won't go to tell us all the plenty things we don't first tell me. Okay, that is it on the show. And like I told us, we have Dr. Paul Koshemiju, who is a seasoned medical practitioner with NABOSH qualification. Dr. Paul is also a health and wellness coach, a telemedicine doctor, and also an entrepreneur. And I am happy to have you today. But let me tell you that the health check will come your way Tuesday. That's what we do every Tuesday, 2:30 to 3 p.m. on Voice of the People Television. And I'm still your humble host, Fina. Okay, Chuku. All right, till I come your way next week, Tuesday. Stay safe. Try as much as you can actually to embrace cleanliness because it is next to godliness. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.